In the early 19th century, on the sun-drenched island of Barbados, a series of events began that would terrify the local population and baffle the British Empire. The Chase Vault, a massive burial chamber hewn from solid coral rock and sealed with a massive blue marble slab, became the site of a recurring, impossible phenomenon. The dead refused to stay where they were placed. The vault was originally built for the Elliot family, but in 1808 it was acquired by the wealthy and powerful Chase family. The first to be interred was Mrs. Thomasina Goddard, followed by two young Chase daughters. All were placed in heavy lead-lined coffins, which required several strong men to lift. The vault was then sealed with a ton of masonry and a heavy stone door. The mystery truly began in 1812 when the patriarch, Thomas Chase, died. When the massive stone seal was broken to enter his body, the mourners gasped in horror. The two lead coffins of the daughters, which had been placed neatly, side by side, were now standing on end, tossed into the corners of the vault like discarded toys. The seal had been perfectly intact until that moment. The vault was reorganized, Thomas was added, and the heavy door was resealed with thick mortar. 4 years later, it was opened again for a relative. Once more, the lead coffins were found in a state of total chaos. One had been flipped upside down, another was leaning against the wall. There were no signs of forced entry, no footprints in the dust, and no dampness in the air. The governor of Barbados, Lord Combermere, became fascinated and decided to conduct a scientific test. In 1819, he supervised the opening of the vault. As expected, the coffins were scattered. He ordered them arranged precisely, then had the floor covered in a layer of fine white sand. He personally sealed the door with his own signet ring pressed into wet cement. Nearly a year later, in April 1820, Lord Combermere returned with a crowd of officials. The exterior seal was perfectly preserved. The cement was hard and uncracked. However, as the men struggled to push the stone door open, they felt a strange resistance from the inside. When the door finally gave way, they found a massive lead coffin jammed directly against it from within. The scene inside was one of violent upheaval. Every coffin had been thrown about the room. Most importantly, the fine white sand on the floor was completely undisturbed. There were no footprints of intruders, no tracks from the coffins being dragged, and no signs of flooding. It was as if the heavy lead boxes had been picked up by an invisible hand and tossed through the air. Lord Combermere was so unnerved by the impossible scene that he ordered the bodies removed and buried in separate graves elsewhere. The Chase Vault was left empty and open to the elements. It remains empty to this day, a hollow stone room in the Christchurch parish graveyard. No further movement was ever reported once the lead coffins were taken away. Theories for the moving coffins ranged from localized earthquakes to magnetic anomalies caused by the island's volcanic origins. However, earthquakes would have damaged the stone walls or left patterns in the sand. Others whispered of Masonic secrets or voodoo curses, suggesting the spirits of the Chase family were so restless they fought each other in the dark. The Chase Vault mystery is a story of the weight of the grave. It is the terrifying reality of heavy metal being moved by a force that leaves no footprint. To this day, the empty vault stands as a silent monument to a decade of madness. It reminds us that even behind a ton of stone and a governor's seal, the dead may not be as still as we assume them to be. As the Caribbean sun sets over the graveyard, the open door of the vault looks like a dark mouth. The story of the lead coffins remains a physical mystery, a puzzle of sand and stone that science cannot solve. It is a reminder that some secrets are meant to be kept in the dark, and that some burdens are too heavy for even the earth to hold in place.